All right, grown-ups, it's just our time. I love the babies, but to help you, I gotta speak my mind. This segment's here to help you grow with book reviews, lessons, and things you'll be glad to know. If your little one's restless or looking to play, send them to my other playlist. The read-alouds there will brighten their day. Hello, beautiful people. I'm Erica M. Burrell, the teacher lady, your fairy godparent when it comes to sharing joyful stories and growing young minds. Here on The Teacher Lady Speaks, we use my experience teaching tiny humans to help enhance your experience raising them, okay? This is done through resources, insight, and honest reflection from a well-seasoned educator. Hey, that's me, that understands just how hard love work can be, okay? This segment is here to answer the question, how do I get my child to get it? Whatever it may be, pertaining to the theme of that week. That's where I come in. This week's topic is civil duty and community. How to get your child to understand what it means to be part of community and what their responsibility is when it comes to taking care of those spaces. Such an important and crucial topic, yet and still, it's not something we always discuss. So I'm so excited you all made it through this week. So we started the week off on Monday with 2 read-alouds. One, The Rhino Who Swallowed a Storm, and the second, The Last Stand, both based in community and how community showed up in these very specific ways. Very important for young children to understand. And they both definitely tie into our topic this week of civil duty and community. So we had 2 read-alouds on Monday. On Wednesday, we had 2 behind the book episodes where we went beyond the pages to get to the heart of the story. These reviews that I do are more than just a whether or not I like the book, but they really teach you how to utilize that book as a resource to support your children or your students. And then today on Friday, happy Friday, we are wrapping it all up in this episode of The Teacher Lady Speaks, a crash course or professional development in how to raise children to understand and be part of community and why it matters. You ready? Let's grow. Defining the topic for a young child. In your life, you probably are part of a bunch of different communities. When you go to school and you have your classroom with your teachers and your friends, that's your school community. And when you go to church and you go to Bible study, that's your church community. And then at home, you have neighbors, and that is your home-based community. So many elements of our life have, well, a different community. And with all of these communities, we have a responsibility to take care of that community, which is also called your civil duty. So think about it. In your classroom, your teacher does what? Yeah, they teach the class. They help you to learn things. And that's part of their civil duty and responsibility because they're part of that community as the lead educator. And what is your job? Yeah, your job is to learn. It's also to help friends if they need it or to show up whenever you're able to, because that's part of your responsibility in being part of that class or that school community. Let's see another example. At home, what do you do at home? You take out the trash. Oh, cool. What else do you do? You groom the dog. Yeah. So those are all part of your civil duties or responsibilities at home because you have community there as well. And every aspect of your life that you're part of, right? You're part of cheerleading, and that is a community. Or you're part of Lego Club, and that is a community. You're Filipino in terms of your ethnicity, and so you have your Filipino community. So many different elements of ourselves belong to community. But when you belong to something, you have a responsibility to take care of it. Think about it. Let's say you go to the grocery store, and everybody that works in that grocery store decides, nah, I quit. I don't want to do it anymore. And nobody does their job. What's going to happen? Yeah, the shelves are not going to be restocked. What else would happen? Food would probably go bad, or at least there will be none available. There will be nobody to ring you up. So that kind of an uncomfortable feeling, because how do you get the things that you do need? And it falls apart. See, when we don't take care of our communities, they literally fall apart. And so it's super important to understand how you contribute to community, especially because you constantly want community to contribute to you. Do you remember when we did the fundraiser for your football team and you wanted all these people to pitch in so that you can do football? Well, those are people showing up for their civil duty to make sure that you were able to play sports. But now you have an obligation to show up in another way for other people. Maybe not by spending money on their fundraiser, but you can absolutely hold the door open if you see somebody is trying to get through and they're having a hard time because they're in their wheelchair. Or when you get older, you should absolutely go down and vote to make sure the things that you believe in are heard and understood. These are all parts of your civil duty. And that's how I would explain it to a child. All of these examples, you're going to have to find things that relate to your child. So if your child is on a swim meet or a swim club, swim team, they are part of that community. And what are their roles and responsibilities within that community? And what happens if everybody says, nah, I'm good? That's how you get your child to understand the importance and the value of showing up, because we always want people to show up for us, but we don't always show up for people. And then the last thing I would tell your babies, can you give me a few ways that you have shown up in community? Like, what are some civil duties that you have? And they might say, I walk the neighbor's dogs because they're older and they have a hard time walking. And that's a civil duty. Or they might say, I'm able to help the teacher out and make sure all the pencils are sharpened, and that's a civil duty. When a child understands that they're already doing the thing that we want them to do, maybe just not on the scale that we're looking for, it actually inspires them and encourages them to do more because they feel seen. Children, just like adults, want to feel seen. What is your child required to learn in school? What are teachers mandated to teach? I use 2 states to discuss what is the mandated curriculum in regards to the topic. So that's the state of California, and I compare it to the state of Texas to help you to understand what your child might be learning in school, because so often parents will skip teaching about a topic because they feel like that's why I send you to school. They got it. I'm not even going to worry about it. This element of the episode is to help you to understand that they might not be learning as much as you think that they are. All right. First up, California. Now, California does have mandated curriculum around civil duty and responsibility. Let's pull up our state standards. So in K through 2 in social studies, the lessons include being a good citizen, rules, respect for others, and working together. In grades 3 through 5, there are more standards that expand on local government, community service, and civic responsibility. They kind of get loose when it comes to the civic duty topics. They're embedded in the history and social science content standards, but how deep a teacher goes on a topic is kind of up to their own discretion. So yay that there is something that is part of the curriculum. I always say how your child learns heavily depends on if they actually retain the content that is being presented. So always make sure to check in with your teacher on what it is that they're teaching. And of course, connect with your child to make sure that they are getting it. But by the time you get through this week, you will be an expert on how to support your baby on being a good member of society. And when I say good, I don't mean well behaved. I just mean mindful of how their decisions and their actions impact the people around them. All right, let's pull up the State of Texas website and go over their curriculum and what your child might learn in terms of community and civic duty. So TEKS, or TEX, requires explicit teaching of citizenship responsibilities starting in kindergarten. This includes helping others, respecting authority, and voting in mock elections. By upper elementary, students do learn about state and national government, volunteerism, and public service roles. Okay, so that is a mandated part of Texas curriculum. Now, what is missing from both California as well as Texas in terms of curriculum mandate is that there is no cultural reflection. And that is important because if your child does not see themselves in that community, they're not going to want to participate when it comes to being part of that community. And so really bringing in the cultural elements of whatever it is that you believe in your home, whatever their ethnicity or nationality is, really goes a long way in getting them invested in their civil duties and also just helping them to understand what their civil duties are. Best practices at home. The best practice when it comes to having your child build community, connect with community, and ultimately participate in community is for them to understand what would happen if everybody took the approach of being dismissive, right? Like so many times, children, especially nowadays, they don't want to do the thing. A lot of them want to revert to self. A lot of times they don't understand the point or the purpose. And so, if you can bring the point and the purpose into light for them in a way in which they would understand the absence, right? I don't know if you ever heard the saying, if you can't respect my presence, you will feel my absence. And sadly, that is very true and accurate for children. They have to feel what it would be like without something in order to truly understand. Sometimes, not all children, but sometimes in order to understand the need or the necessity to contribute. So I know growing up, I very rarely said, I don't feel like it. And I very rarely said that because every time I did make that statement, I was bold enough to make that statement, which may have been like twice my entire life. My mama did not play. But if I were to say something like, I don't feel like it, the response would be met with a list so thick and long about what it is that she did and why my feelings of not feeling like it are not enough to not do the thing that I am responsible for. And although I don't recommend writing your child a book about how much you've done for them, I do think that it's really beautiful and meaningful for them to understand that just like you have a role as their parent, as their grandparent, as their neighbor, as their sister, as whoever you might be, they have a role in response. Relationships are not one way. Community is not one way. And so often we want everyone to pull up for us. We want everyone to pull up for our calls. We want everyone to give to us. We want everyone to support us, right? I got a new song come out. Go listen to it. Or, I'm going off to college next month. Support my fundraiser. But when the tables are turned, we don't give back. Actually, this week reminds me a lot of the week on compassion and boundaries when we talked about the giving tree, because it is important that as you take from anything, you replenish it. And the same is true for community. If we don't all do our part to keep the neighborhood clean, the neighborhood won't be clean. If we decided, you know what, forget it. We're never going to clean up. We're never going to have trash picked up or recycling taken to the correct place. I'm just tired and I don't want to do it. Very quickly, you would notice that that neighborhood is now filled and overfilled with trash because people did not do their job and their part in keeping the community together. So with your child, the best practice would be to explore what is their part in these different communities that they're engaged in, whether they signed up for them or not, whether it's video game club or whether it's at home and in your house and in that neighborhood. What are your responsibilities? Because the reality is that we benefit from community. When you're not feeling well and your neighbor brings you a cup of soup, that is a benefit of community. When you go to school and your lunch is a little small that day, and so your friend shares their crackers, that's a benefit of community. When you go to gymnastics and you're at gymnastics and you forgot your shorts and your friend lends you a pair of theirs, that is a benefit of community. So as we benefit from community, we have a civil responsibility to give back. Because if we don't, if we take the approach of doing nothing, then it won't be maintained. And if community is not maintained, that's where it crumbles. So best practice is truly getting your child to see themselves, seeing their own responsibilities, questioning what would happen if everybody took a negative approach to their civil duties and their responsibilities, and where that would lead and land us. You can even go as far as to discuss voting. What would happen if so many of our ancestors decided, I don't feel like going down to the polls? How would that change things like segregation? How would that change things like our human rights? So showing up in community regardless of how you feel, because you understand that you are part of this bigger goal. You are part of this bigger friendship or this bigger group that requires maintenance. And this is for children as young as 2. In my mind, every single person has a role and a responsibility when it comes to maintaining an uplifting community. In my classroom, we always have classroom jobs, and it works for that child. If I have a child that's nonverbal, obviously I'm not going to have them be the classroom greeter, but what can they do that's within their realm and within their ability? Because here's the thing we don't talk about. It actually feels really good to help. It's been scientifically proven that when you feel like you helped someone, you feel it. It makes you feel better. It really increases your endorphins and almost has a dopamine hit for some people, where like it excites them that you were able to help, that wow, they didn't have this thing and now I was able to give it to them and now I feel better. I remember my child recently, I took her to a neighborhood that I grew up in, and she did not want to get out the car. She was very uncomfortable in the environment. And then once we set up and she was able to pass out food and pass out hygiene kits, she felt so much better. Why? Because she felt like she was part of community. She felt like she was part of society. She felt like she was doing her civil duty. So we may have called it community service, but at the core of it, it was her and the access that she had and the ability to be able to help, and her helping, that really turned things around in her mind and made her feel better about where she was. So you'll be surprised when you put children up to the task how far it is that they get. All right, let's discuss resources. There are so many resources when it comes to this topic. Of course, you're going to start with the books that I already recommended this week. One is The Last Stand, the other, The Rhino That Swallowed a Storm. Both of them help children to understand their civil duty if they were in these situations. Other resources include websites like iCivics. iCivics was founded by a Supreme Court Justice, Sandra Day O'Connor. It's a free interactive resource, so it has games and lesson plans, and it's utilized to teach kids about their rights and responsibilities. They have games like Do I Have a Right and Cast Your Vote, which makes civic learning fun and easier to understand. So iCivics are one of those things that, your child is going to have their iPad or their tablet anyway. Allow them to get on and explore and learn a little bit more about how our society works and how to be a supportive member of society. Next, we're going to talk about a resource that's a bit more hands-on, and it's called Generation Citizen. Generation Citizen is a website that is going to walk your child through project-based learning, so they are able to pick an activity or pick a program and literally do something either around community, gardening, volunteering at a shelter, so on and so forth. But it is a way for them to get involved in community. So it's a very hands-on, let's learn, let's grow approach to teaching this topic. And the last website I'm going to share today is called Youth Service America. As always, I'm going to tell you to sign up for the newsletter so that you don't miss any additional goodies that I throw at you. But for now, we're going to talk about Youth Service America. Youth Service America connects youth with service opportunities, so it offers small grants for community projects and coordinates Global Youth Service Day, where children can join nationwide efforts to make a difference. So if your child needs to see other people doing something in order for them to feel like they want to do it, this is a good resource, because they're able to bring together all the people who are volunteering to clean the beach or to grow trees at the park. So it's really a community hub in terms of connection. And because we're all doing the same thing, I don't feel as left out or outcast. So here are some common questions or statements that I hear. The first is around the child's responsibility to community. Do children really have a responsibility when it comes to community? Baby, absolutely. You're here. You're alive. you're well and you are able to contribute. If you don't want narcissistic babies, if you don't want babies who are filled with entitlement, if you don't want babies who are selfish, you don't want babies who are going to only take and not give, you are going to have to make it clear early that they are part of a bigger picture, that the sun does not rise and set based on their emotions, and that their actions have very real impact, not only for themselves, but for the other people that are a part of that community. So they are not too young. If they're 2 years old, they are able to help clean up, put away laundry, even simple things like go pick out a book, go grab a book. All of these things are a way that they get to show up and present in the world, and they're important, they're crucial. So no, not too young to be learning about your civil duty, your community responsibility. That should start early and can easily be part of your day-to-day life, as discussed in our best practices. The other question that came forward is, should my child be involved in community service? The short answer is sure, right? I think that there is a lot of value in community service and giving back. But I think what actually goes further, especially in the beginning, is whatever the service needed anyway. Not necessarily even going outside of your community right away, but right in your home community, what do you all do? And how can they contribute? Do you do a block party every October, every Halloween, and they just show up in their costume and get candy? Well, somebody planned that. So how do you participate in the planning element as opposed to just the taking element? There is this story. I heard it when I was a kid. Bear with me. Essentially, there's a hen, and the hen is like, who's going to help me knead the flour? And everybody's like, nah, I'm not doing that. Okay, cool. Who's going to help me roll the butter in? And they like, nah, I'm good. Okay, cool. Who going to help me wash the dishes? Nope. Who going to help me bake? Nope. Who going to help me do all these things that are required for this beautiful dinner? Don't nobody want to do it. When the hen says, who's going to help me eat? Everybody rolls up. Okay? That's a problem. And that problem started in that person's childhood. In this case, it's animals, but it starts young. Your child either understands young, and there's balance. Me growing up, I was beyond civil duty and I felt responsible for everything all the time. That is completely unacceptable and not okay. And then other people growing up, they don't feel like they responsible for nothing, right? They don't feel like they have to contribute anything, and that's not good either. So there's definitely a balance. But having your child understand that we work together to make things happen, that they are needed to make things happen, is the difference between them showing up at the dinner table and helping to prepare and make that happen. When to seek help. So if your child is refusing to do anything, they won't pick up a piece of trash. They won't help nobody cross the street. They're just kind of to themselves. It could be some underlying issue like depression or anxiousness that needs to be addressed from a medical standpoint. And so I would say if you're seeing these really huge pushbacks around community participation, whether it's events or whether it's helping out in some sort of way, go check in with your doctor. I would also say that the library is also always a valuable resource when it comes to when to seek help, because the library has resources on books, audiobooks, documentaries, but also people. Library is a hub for community gathering. People rent rooms there in order to meet. People post up flyers for things that they have going on. And the more that you can connect with people in your community where they're having the same issues, the two of you can brainstorm to figure out how to better support your child. So really utilize those parenting groups like PTA, the library, meetup.com. Of course, do proper due diligence, make sure the group is safe. But these different places that you can connect with people who might have had similar experiences to help to give you more resources and build well community, right? And then if your child continues to be withdrawn to themselves and not really seeing themselves as part of society, I would also say if your school has a guidance counselor, the guidance counselor is God's gift to education, okay? They're amazing, most of them, when they love their job. but the role itself of a guidance counselor is to really support in whatever areas that child might be struggling with. And so I've seen guidance counselors create service days at school to help with things like civil duty and responsibility. I've seen them meet one-on-one with children who seem to be a little bit more reserved or withdrawn when it comes to community support. So really connecting with your guidance counselor on like, hey, what can we do about this? How are some ways that we can help them to show up for life? Because a huge part of being part of community and seeing through your civil duties has to do with showing up. And so if your child is struggling with that, then of course it'll be harder for them to do anything, let alone help out the people that surround them. But your guidance counselor is just that. They are an element of guidance, and they can help to counsel, and they can also help to provide resources and insight that you may have not seen or heard elsewhere. Thank you so much for learning with me this week. I hope your little ones love the read alouds. And of course, I hope you learned something for yourself as well during this segment. Be sure to sign up for my newsletter for all of the resources discussed today, as well as some extra bonuses and goodies that I always throw in there. If you don't know, I am also an author and an illustrator. Please check out my books, as well as the Pay It Forward program, which is an initiative called the Empathy Library, where the goal is to get books to the children that need them by way of your generous support and donations. It's extremely straightforward. You can check it out below. I am so grateful that you all have spent this time with me. Continue to learn, continue to grow, and continue to have kindness and compassion for yourself, because you are truly doing the best you can, okay? Until next time, remember to enjoy the moment, or go be a joy in the moment. Bye.